What is the best live streaming camera setup you can use in your race car? Well, there are a number of options there, of course. I'm going to be discussing the top 4 cameras that most people are using. So we'll start down at one end with the GoPro. Now, the GoPros, of course, have a long history in the sports action camera market. The issue with those cameras, though, is that although they've come a long way and have gotten a lot better than they have the last time I did a video regarding the GoPros, is that they still have thermal issues. They have a thermal operating range of up to about 110 degrees. And as we know, inside of a race car, we can definitely hit 110 degrees. So while things have gotten better, I won't go into a lot of details with them, they're still not really a great source. Now, you're going to have outliers. There's people that I know of that are using GoPro cameras successfully, but there's not a lot of them out there that are really working. So what we want is to make sure we have something that's reliable first. I'm just going to disqualify the GoPros for now, and we'll look at the top 3 kits that seem to be out there right now. So the first kit that seems to have the most push into the market right now is the One-TouchYi kit that I sell. And that's because the Yi cameras have been the ones that have been around in the sport for such a long period of time. They were first manufactured in 2014, and they've proven to be incredibly robust, relatively reliable, and relatively inexpensive, originally retailing at $249 when they were first brought to market. The benefits of the Yi camera are that its reliability, it has a much broader temperature range of 32 degrees Fahrenheit up to 130 degrees Fahrenheit before they're going to turn off to protect themselves. And that's proven to be pretty reliable for our type of racing. They also seem to handle the high moisture, heavy rain conditions that we occasionally see. I have a lot of cameras I put out on the racetrack. They see a tremendous amount of rain at some of our events, and yet they recover pretty well from that. Occasionally I'll have a moisture that gets inside of the lens, because the lens is multiple pieces of glass inside there, and there's condensation that will build up. I put them out in the sunlight when I get back to the homestead with them, and they usually dry out within a day. Sometimes they leave a water spot inside the lens, which is going to funk up the lens, and I just have to replace the lens. The lenses are pretty inexpensive, especially those OEM lenses. I've got a pile of them. So not really difficult to recover from heavy wet conditions, and they are rated as waterproof on their website, which is kind of silly. Nothing's waterproof really. Like, it's water resistant. The sound quality is not the best, but they are stereo, and sound is a whole another issue in here, and I can get into that in another video. Now, as far as visual quality, the Yi is, just by its standard settings, the best quality as far as color. I look for color and I look at frame rate. So there's 2 things there. The frame rate has to do with how smooth the image is, and that's really important for racing because we're moving quickly. We want to see a smooth video signal, video coming at us, even if we have to reduce the resolution a little bit. So you're familiar with like a 1080p television or 4K, even if we have to come down to 720 or even 480, it's still a better experience watching that kind of a video as opposed to something that's very choppy, that's almost unwatchable really for racing purposes. The Yi is, of course, a discontinued camera. It's no longer being manufactured, but that's the case with most of the cars we race too. They're pretty old, discontinued parts, so I guess it kind of fits right in. I can come back to some of the other details on the Yi. Now, moving into the Mine A5 camera. Now, this is one that's been recently introduced into the market. It's becoming more mainstream use in cars now. And MyRaces.live now sells a kit where it includes the Mine A5, but they've also are including a homegrown in-house mod to the Mine A5 where they put an external rabbit ear antenna on it. And I think that's really the best solution for that camera. Without it, we saw problems with signal drop, artifacting, which for me, because I like to watch the feed and I want it to be as clean as possible and the color to be good, I found that to be annoying, just for me. But they've come out with this solution. I use the Mine A5 on the broadcast. That is the camera that Les uses predominantly in the pits. So as you're seeing him move through the pits with a camera on a stick or on his gimbal, you'll notice it's a much larger footprint, so it's a heavier camera, and that's the Mine A5 that he's carrying around with the MyRaces.live mod on it. It has an internal battery, just like the Yi does, but it also has an internal hotspot, which that means you can load the SIM card from your respective cellular provider, be it Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and it'll just transmit through that and use that, so you don't have a separate hotspot like you require with using the Yi 4K action camera. So that's nice. It's one less gadget to carry around. The downside is it's a much bigger footprint and it's a heavier camera, so you have to deal with that. So there's a plus and a minus to all of these kits. There's a good and a bad, and you have to decide which one fits you best. The Mine A5 video, the color quality isn't quite as good as the Yi. The Yi is the best of the three. So let's go on to the third one, and that's the Sentinel live streaming system. This system, it has the lowest color quality, the lowest, I guess you might even say image quality, but it's not really quite fair because the Sentinel system is built around a different premise, whereas the Yi is all about, hey, it's going to look great, because that's primarily all it does. The Sentinel system is built on the idea of speed for things like coaching. So this is where you can sit in the pits and you can see what's happening through a connection, and you can then coach the driver while they're progressing through the corner with about a 2-second delay. That's very different from what you can do with these other camera kits. Because of that, they have to sacrifice, I'm start getting technical here, bit rate. And so they're sacrificing image quality on the color side for speed and fluid, good frame rates. So they want it has to look very good motion-wise, but you're going to lose some of the quality in the color. And that's why you've probably noticed things like the light levels are very notchy and flip a lot while the car's working its way around the track. And so you're like, gosh, why does it look like that? And that's because it's simply engineered for a different purpose, right? So we're talking, the Pro Kit is $4,000. So it's by far much, much more expensive than the Mine A5 kit, which is retailing around $800 to $900, I believe. And then my kit's sub $400. So big difference in prices. The Sentinel system is more apparatus. There's a lot more equipment they're installing. They have CAN bus integration and AIM integration. They have what's called binding, cellular binding, so that you can put multiple cards in there. And binding is kind of a generic term. What they're actually, it's called an aggregate. So what's happening is they're using maybe an ATT and a Verizon SIM card simultaneously in order to share those services as it's sending the data in, and then it's reassembled on the other end. So you're going to get the reliability there. It does have more artifacting, so you do see points on the racetrack where it just goes to a gray screen, you don't see anything. It's not great for live broadcasting in that regard. It's not great for what I do with it, and that is showing it for, a live show production. But again, it's a different product. It's not meant for that. So which camera system is the best system to go with? Live streaming systems, well, I guess it really just depends on what your goals are. It depends on whether you're looking, if you want something that's inexpensive to get you in the door to where you're going to be able to live stream and it's going to look great. The Yi system, which is the one that I sell, of course, I'm partial to. I think it's great. It's a proven technology, and I use it every weekend we do a stream. I'm putting like 20 of these out there. So I know that they're solid. I know that they work. I'm very familiar with it, and I support it. If you want something that's a step above that, where things are more compact, there's not as much to put together, meaning there's a hotspot and a camera and then extra cables. If you want to reduce that, you can go to the Mine A5. The Mine A5, the picture quality is, again, a little bit less quality than what you get with the Yi, but it's a little more whiz-bangy. You got a little bit more features. You can control the camera with your phone app, but it also has an external microphone jack. And with that, they offer on their website at myraces.live a cable, a rather pricey cable, by the way. It's about $250, but it will link your comm system into the camera feed so you can hear the communications between the driver and the pits over the radio. Maybe that's important. Maybe that's something you'd like to do. And it also runs we're going to get kind of technical again, H.265 codecs, whereas the Yi is using the old H.264. The Yi runs primarily on 4G LTE through that hotspot. It can run on a better hotspot if you want to run on the 5G side, but what I found actually the 4G LTE is the better hotspot, and I've done a video on that, the whole thing with which cellular service is the best for racing. The Sentinel system runs purely on 5G from what I can read. And the Sentinel system, they're also offering something called a Mini, although it's somewhat discoverable. There's nothing about price. There's not a lot of information on their website about it. So you probably have to email them in order to get that information. And I'm curious what you think is the best live streaming solution for your race car. Leave a comment down below, and I'll be sure to see you in the next one. Take care.